This is example 4, so problem 4 from section 1 still. Remember, in section 1 you are allowed to use a calculator on these, so if you need it, it will pop up. You'll see the link. When you're doing these problems, make sure you read it first very carefully so you know what information they're giving you and then what it's asking you to do. If it helps you to mark the text, please go ahead and do so. So on this one it says on Mondays, so I'm going to underline Mondays. We know Jada runs between 2 and 5 miles. An important word there is between, so we know that there's not necessarily just one right answer. There could be a whole range of different numbers involved with that. And then on Tuesdays, so I'm going to underline Tuesdays, she runs 3 times more than what she ran on the previous Monday. We want to know which inequality can be used to find x, which is the distance Jada could run on Tuesday. So I'm going to put a box around that because that seems pretty important, and you should always box what the question is asking. So we want to know what inequality can be used to find x, which is the distance she could run on a Tuesday. So I'm going to write that down as x. What that means in this problem is distance ran on a Tuesday. Okay, so we're going to use that. First off, the information that we have is we know how far she runs on a Monday. So let's use that. I'm going to say the M would be distance ran on Monday. So we know that on Monday, M, this is how far she's running, she runs between 2 and 5 miles. So I'm going to put a 2 on this side and a 5 on this side because the M is how far she ran. It's got to be bigger than 2, but it's got to be smaller than 5. So because we're talking about inequalities, remember what that means. An equation would just have an equal, but an inequality is not that. Inequalities are these symbols. This would be greater than, less than, greater than or equal to, and less than or equal to. So we know that she ran between 2 and 5 miles. So that means she had to run more than 5 miles or more than 2 miles. So the M, which is the amount she ran, needs to be bigger than 2. So notice the way I have the arrow drawn there. M needs to be bigger, so that the inequality symbol eats the M. But she has to run less than 5 miles, so she needs to run smaller than 5. So once again, notice this. The M value, the amount that she ran, has to be smaller than 5. So the M does not get eaten in this case. So we know that we have, this is how much she ran on Monday. Well, how does that help us find how much she ran on Tuesday? Well, on Tuesday, it clearly says in the problem that she runs 3 times farther. So 3 times farther. So remember, the letter we're using for Tuesday, they tell us is x. So that's what we're going to use in this problem. Otherwise, we could have used t, but they tell us to use x. So x is how much she ran on Tuesday, and we said it has to be 3 times more. So I'm going to take the 2 and multiply by 3, and I get 6. And on the other side here, I'm going to take 5 times 3, which is going to give me 15. So on Tuesday, she had to run more than 6 miles, but less than 15 miles. Now, the only problem with what we have here is if you look at each and every one of these, they don't have a 6 or a 15 in the answer. So that's a problem for us. So how do we fix that problem? Well, notice, on ours, we know she ran between 6 and 15. We have a 6 here. They have a 2 and a 2 and a 2 and a 2. So what can I do to this 6 so that it becomes a 2? Well, basically, if I divide it by 3, 6 divided by 3 will give me 2. And I notice that when I divide 15 by that same number 3, 15 divided by 3 is going to give me 5. And if I divide one part, like when I divided this by 3, I would have to divide all of them by 3. So I'm looking for that common number. So it looks like when I divide them all by 3, this is going to work out. 6 divided by 3 is going to give me 2, is less than Now this middle part we can't actually solve. We don't know what x is, so we're just going to leave it as x over 3, which is less than, and then we have this last part, 15 divided by 3, which is 5. So this is an answer. This one would have been fine if they would have given us one of those options, but since they didn't, we had to go through an extra work just to try to solve it with algebra to figure out one that matches what they gave us. So 2, it could have been any of these. 5, it could have been any of these. X over 3 is the middle, so it looks like it could be either one of these. But now when we look at the symbols, we said that this part needed to be greater than 6, so that symbol should be facing this way. And then same thing, this number had to be smaller than 15, so the symbol should be facing this way. The only one that has that happen is C. So you kind of have to go through process of elimination. If you have a different answer, don't just automatically assume it's wrong. Sometimes you need to go back through and look to see why yours is different in a written form, and then see if you can change your answer to match one.